Hey guys, it's Crossroads here. Today I want to talk about BMNR, specifically my options strategy. Now, this is a stock that I have several different strategies over 4 different accounts that I have and several different account types. But I want to really hone in on what I'm doing as far as wheeling and as far as options with BMNR. Now, what this video is not, it's not an options tutorial. At some point, maybe I'll do that. If you not use options, be very careful with it. Make sure you know what you're doing. Probably better if you paper trade it and you do just something that's very, very small. So this is not financial advice. Again, I just want to warn you, but it has been working very well for me. And so first, I want to just take a quick look at the ticker and rather the actual chart, and then we'll dig into some option stuff. So here is the actual chart. Now you can see with BMNR, of course, it was here massively up. If we go out a little bit further, we can see the big run when they shifted from that former business, which was Bitcoin mining business, and they did a couple of other things as well. It's mostly that to a digital asset treasury for Ethereum, mostly. Massive spike up. Of course, they announced Tom Lee as treasurer, and it has settled down as well, still up a lot over this year. I entered, actually, I've not been in really that long. It was back in August, I believe, that I entered this position for the first time. And then in September as well, built out my position. Now, how I'm playing this is several things. I have some shares that I'm just holding and not doing anything with. I have some vertical spreads that I'm not going to really talk about too much that I sold or that I bought as well. And I'm going to let those run and do its thing. And I also have some shares in my individual account, which is not tax advantage. So when I sell, there will be tax ramifications. And then I have a chunk here. This is actually the smallest one of these in my Roth IRA, and also some in my individual retirement account as well, and also over in Webull. So a little bit spread out. It's a fairly decent sized position. I'll do a portfolio update here in a little bit. Now, volatility here is a friend of the stock. I've talked about that elsewhere, but basically they're using the volatility plus the liquidity and trading at a premium over the net assets under value to actually sell shares that are a little bit expensive and buying undervalued Ethereum, which is accretive to shareholders. But it also is a good thing if you are into the options game and selling options as well, which I like to do. But you have to be careful as well and know what you're in this for. So again, part of my BMNR position, I'm just letting it run, not doing anything with it, or being very, very careful with covered calls. Now, covered calls, in essence, let me pull up the options chain here. Covered calls, what you're doing is selling or agreeing to sell the stock at a set price if it gets to the set amount. So if we look here, this is on Robinhood Legend. It's a little bit laggy because I need to replace my computer, maybe with BMNR winnings at some point. But you can go actually a long ways out. And because of that volatility that is in the actual stock, the premiums for this are outrageous. So let me actually go even a little bit further out. We'll go 2 weeks out. Usually I'll just do October 10th and kind of show you what I did here. And you won't see it here. I've actually done it in different accounts as well. We'll talk about BMNU here as well, by the way, and what I did there. But as you look at the options chain, so if this was Monday, and I just typically sell weeklies with this stock, other people do other things. In my tax advantage account, so a little bit here in the Roth, a lot more in the individual account as well, I basically figure out what I'm okay with as far as an aggressive sell. Now, here is the put side, here is the call side. And so if we go up to the call side, I actually sold some 72s midway through, I think, the trading day today. You can actually see here, we won't go into the Greeks too much, but this is the implied volatility, 128%, which is actually just obscene. And of course, you can see all the Greeks. Again, if you don't know the Greeks, if this is all Greek to you, pun intended, don't get in options. Make sure that you do some research first as well. So anyway, I sold 72s. That is, right here. And here is the prices. So on Robinhood Legend, the way it works is if you're selling, it's the bid. If you're buying, it's the ask. And you can see that there's a bit of a spread. One of the nice things about BMNR, by the way, since there is a lot of liquidity, and we're going to see the opposite in BMNU in just a moment, you can see the actual volume here. It's not quite the same as open interest. That's actually what's most important. It helps determine a closer range and a spread. But I'll usually do one of two things. I didn't do it today, but I'll usually look for a strike that has a higher amount of open interest and a spread that is a little bit less that I'm comfortable selling at in my tax advantage account. So And let's pretend that I'm doing this here today. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell this at 70 strike, and I'll go ahead and as a result, sell cover calls. Now I can't do that because I don't have any shares here, but it'll pull up here and say, oh, you don't have nearly enough collateral. I've got not enough money either, so I would have to buy 100 shares. But I could sell to open one, and it's going to give me a price here. And of course, I can enter any price here for the limit order, but that's going to actually fill here. But I might do it just a couple of cents higher. Usually I do, just to take advantage of volatility. And what this is basically saying is I am agreeing to be willing to sell my 100 shares in this example of BMNR at, and I only have 25, by the way, in this account. So we'll talk about that in just a moment too. But at $70. And so what happens if Friday hits and all of a sudden I do not have, it does not go to 70, I just keep this premium either way. But this is giving me more than a 1% premium. And by the way, when you do this on Monday morning, I'm not saying you should or not, but that's just what I do, is after it opens up, usually after an hour or two, depending on how the stock is trading. Of course, if it spikes up massively, I'm in there near the open. If it doesn't, I normally wait for things just to settle down a little bit so I can understand the direction that the stock is heading for that day. And it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the week. So especially because I give that BMNR update very early on Monday morning, which is so nice for this. So in this scenario, I'm selling at 70 strike, 93 cents. That doesn't sound like a lot, but this is times 100. So I'm actually getting $93. There is a small regulatory fee here on Robinhood of 4 cents. So I'm getting 92.96 in this theoretical example. And as a result, I get to keep that either way, whether I sell it 70 or not. Now, let's say that it hits, and BMNR is, by the way, this is October. BMNR is going to do some very good things, I think, in this month. We can see it's really moved a lot here. Let's say that we get to next week. Now, the premiums are not going to be nearly as good because there is such a thing as theta decay. It's the time component in options. But let's say we smash through my 70. It's trading at 74. And I just have my money that I had in BMNR. All I have is that little 25 shares that's in the Roth here. So what would I do? In this case, I would actually go over to puts. Now here, it's going to be a better example if I just pretend that the price is right here. So let's say Monday morning, that this was Monday morning. Premiums would, by the way, be a little bit better because you'd have 5 days instead of 4. I would say, okay, I'm going to sell a cash secured put. And what I want to get is a premium. And I want to do this pretty aggressively. The reason why I want to be aggressive here is usually in a bull market, and especially when you think there's some momentum behind your stock, you can afford to be a little bit aggressive, or at least I can. And I think that's right for me. And I don't mind actually owning the shares of BMNR. I think that's critical if you're going to wheel back and forth, which is exactly what this strategy is. Make sure you actually want to own the stock. Usually do it in stocks that you own anyway. And then this is just an added little benefit as well. So regardless, here we are. And let's say that this is Monday morning. We open up at 63.04. I'm wanting to go ahead and sell. And so let's say I'd look at this and I'd be like, okay, so this actual strike right here is probably what I'd look at. The main reason I'm looking at this, now the premiums are absolutely obscene, but the main reason why I'm looking at this is because you can see this right here. That's a volume, and this open interest is immense. Usually around those even number strikes, you'll find a little bit more open interest, especially on a very liquid chain like this. And if we scoot over, we can see that the delta is actually, usually I don't sell, even sell puts at this high of a delta. It's usually at a 10 delta or less, 0.10 delta or less. But regardless, yeah, this is what I would do right here. So I'd go ahead and sell to open this cash secured put. I would do as many as I was planning to do. Let's just say I'd do 10. Don't have near the collateral, of course. So I would need $60,000, but let's say my BMNR sold and I'm able to do this. Then I might put my limit price just slightly higher. Usually that will fill, especially on this name. And there's not much of a spread. So actually in this, well, it says 340 versus 350. Yeah, maybe hit it right down the middle. Maybe I say, I just wanted to fill. I don't care. That's a lot of money. I'm getting paid for, now this is 11 days, by the way. So this would not be nearly as good. By next week, it might be, 140 or something like that. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe closer to 2. But I'd be getting paid that amount right there, which is really nice. That's above a 2% yield for just essentially a week. Again, this is 11 days. but this is a hypothetical example. So that's exactly what I'm doing is I'm buying and selling this. I'm being a little bit more careful on the upside here, as I don't really want to get rid of my BMNR position, at least right now. I think we have a lot of room to run. I do think they are doing some dilution. It's part of the model as well. And so I'd be a little bit surprised if we break above or much above 80 in this month. But I'm okay, selling like at 72, for instance, because it's really just 10% lower than 80. No big deal if we run to 80 and I sell cash figure puts about 10% more or 10% lower. The premium is still there, but I'm usually looking for about a 2% yield, which is way too greedy on a normal ticker. But BMNR, because of that implied volatility, look at that, 115%. It is not a normal ticker. The options volume is lucrative. So what am I doing with that? Well, it goes back to that little I showed you before that I have 25 shares in isolation. Usually when I buy stocks, just kind of the way I'm wired, even if I'm not selling options on it, like Nubank is lousy for options. I own it, but I rarely sell options on it except around earnings, maybe. And even in this earnings, I don't know that if I will or not. But I'm just buying some BMNR shares. And when those get to lots of 100, then I go ahead and start selling options against that as well. It's not infinite money glitch. There is a risk in everything. If we get a big crypto winter and Ethereum, the bottom drops out, BMNR will also be hit massively as well. And so I'm also putting some of the gains in Ethereum. But right now, especially for the price that they're trading at, most of what I did in September, and I've started in this month as well, is just going to purchase some free, it's not really free, but free shares through the options premium for BMNR. So what happens if I don't have enough money in an account for that cash secured put or that covered call? Well, that was a case right here. I actually sold a put on BMNU. Now, BMNU, what exactly is that? BMNU is not BMNR. I actually prefer holding BMNR, but I still wanted exposure in this account. I didn't have quite enough for a full cash secured put. And so instead, what I ended up doing is going to BMNU and selling options. BMNU is double levered. It's a long position. So in other words, if BMNR goes up 5%, it goes up 10% roughly. It's close to the 2x. There are some fees and things. There's a reason why I typically don't like to own those, and instead I just prefer to own options. And you'll also notice on this chain right here that its chain is not nearly as pronounced. This is actually really bare. It's not uncommon when you get to a ticker that's actually just been developed, or also one that has a lot lower liquidity and volume. And so you can see this is just one contract of mine. This again is not a massive account for me. I didn't have a ton of money here for BMNR, but I wanted to put it in BMNU. So I did it for 11 days out, sold a cash secured put at a $30 strike. When we were actually closer, let's see if I can, not through low, maybe it's, this way. So the quantities are pretty small in this one, but I just sold one. I got $2. That's per option. So I got a total of $210 that I was able to use. So that's what I got for BMNR. Bought some shares with it right there. That's kind of how it works for me in this account. So I do have other cash, but again, I'm just trying to be disciplined, comfortable with my allocation to BMNR. And the only thing that I'm adding is the premiums off of the Willing account, which is larger in actually all of my other 4 portfolios. But why did I do BMNU? Again, the premiums are ridiculous. It is double levered, and so there is some risk. But even here, there's a large spread, so maybe it wasn't the best strike. I probably should have done 29 here. That had a little bit better open interest. But all the way down, if you remember, you saw several of those in BMNR that had thousands of open interest. Well, in this case, it doesn't. But look at the IV right here. The IV is in the 200s%. And so there's an immense amount of premium just because of the IV. But yeah, the stock can go each way. I'm not going to use BMNU too often, except when I'm like, I don't have 6,000 or 7,000 to fill out this, but I don't want to just sit in $4,000 of cash or $3,000. Let me go ahead and sell an option here. And BMNU, something I don't mind owning. Although if it did fill, let's say it pulled back and it's trading at 28 a share, I would probably sell the covered call pretty aggressively because I don't really want to own BMNU over the long term. Even though the premiums are ridiculous, just the liquidity is not there and the volume is not there. And so it makes a lot more sense for me anyway to put it in BMNR And of course, I'm buying some Ethereum here and there with my regular account too. So that's kind of the play that I'm doing with BMNR for most of my position. Again, got some vertical spreads. I do have some shares like this, but also some shares in my individual account that I'm being very cautious with selling covered calls because I don't want tax liability anymore in that account. I had too much because of Palantir, and so I want to be a little careful. Maybe probably shouldn't even be selling covered calls in that, to be honest. And then in my Roth, in my IRA, and also on Webull, I've been pretty aggressive in selling at certain strikes, although a little bit more cautious now that we're in October. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. If you guys are doing a different strategy with options, I would love to hear it. I'm curious what people are doing all the time. Love to learn from others. And, this is something that I enjoy, but always be careful. Make sure that you know what you're investing in and how you're investing. So again, if you're new to options, I encourage you to, do a lot of due diligence, do a lot of research, look at some other channels that have some really good options tools and option information. And make sure you're comfortable with the risk before you get in, like anything. Thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing. Until next time, happy investing.